Hi, this is Justin from Uberrock, DJ Astrocreep. I'm here today with Pete Spiby from Black Spiders. Absolute pleasure to see you today, Pete.
Hello, how you doing, mate? All right?
Yep. How about yourself? How's lockdown been treating you in general?
I can't say it's been awful. It's been all right. I pretty much live on my own unless I have my kids with me, which is not all the time. And then in between that, well, we've done an album, so thumbs up for this pandemic from that point of view. Obviously, other issues, it's a complete thumbs down. But there you go.
Yeah, we'll obviously talk about the album first. Get the business out of the way before I end up going off on an absolute random tangent. As I often do.
Yeah.
So it's the first full release you've done in 8 years. Obviously, you had the split in 2016 where we all thought it was probably gone. So what was it that kind of spurred you into actually coming back as a full act?
Well, we were still friends. We've been mates for a long time prior to doing the band, basically, and so the band was the first time that we were all kind of in the same band all together. And so when the band decided to take a rest, we still remained friends. It wasn't that we'd fallen out; there was no animosity. And then it kind of all came about really because in the summer of 2019, guitarist Ozzy Lister was getting married, and so there was quite a lot of activity around that because we were kind of all involved in some part of his wedding, doing helping was somehow, and so obviously we'd spent a bit more time together again in each other's company, a lot more than we had done previously, since calling it a day, I guess. Yeah, the idea just came from that, really. I think from just chatting about music and what have you. I think the idea came from that, and everybody kind of was up for it, and so we kind of decided to, once Ozzy's wedding was kind of out of the way, and we'd start making some tracks or inroads into seeing how we could make it a reality, really.
Okay. It's
and then just after, sorry, go on.
No, carry on. Sorry.
Yeah, and then just after the new year, we actually decided to start getting together. Like, we'd sent a few ideas to each other, myself and Ozzy and Mark, and we started just looking at those and maybe sort of trying to make them more into songs. And then myself and Ozzy started getting together to demo them up on GarageBand. And then we'd done about maybe two, maybe three. And then the pandemic hit, really. So, but I think because we'd, between myself and Ozzy, we'd kind of got ourselves so worked up about it and so excited about the songs that we were kind of doing. We were, once the lockdown came, that wasn't gonna stop us, really. So, in fact, it probably, in a way, it made us concentrate on it a little bit more. And I guess any songwriters out there might know that sometimes when you're bored out of your mind, that's sometimes when you have the best ideas. It all depends. Like, there's no particular method to Black Spider's songwriting. Ideas and songs and bits and bobs come from all different places at different times. But out of boredom does come some immense riffs, or or just even like some vocal ideas or some lyrical ideas or whatever. And so so I think with the excitement of starting, like getting the band back together through the first lockdown, we were kind of like, we were banging songs out like there was no tomorrow.
You've stuck to your kind of tried and tested sound. It's not like you've tried to experiment after your kind of hiatus. Was it easier for you carrying on in that style than maybe looking at it and going, oh, well, should we try something different, or do we have other influences now, or even things like that?
Well, to be honest, I think we probably think we're always experimenting.
Okay.
But maybe even so, when we did the second album sessions, we sort of maybe expanded a little bit on the sound from the first record. But then it was a conscious decision that when we got back together, that this new album had to make a similar impact to the first record. Otherwise, okay, there's no point in coming back with anything mediocre, really. So, it needed to be, everybody needed to be 100%. And I mean, as I've already said in our press release and stuff, basically, Ozzy just said, yeah, every song on this album needs to punch you in the face. So basically, no power ballads, and no middle of the road, thumbs in waistband songs. Yeah. basically, I think more of the sort of hard and heavy and faster sort of maybe more punk attitude side of Black Spiders.
Yeah. I've noticed you've got some of the heavier blues side as well, because probably two tracks I kind of picked out as my standouts, but haven't heard it through a few times, with Wizard Shall Not Kill Wizard and Back in the Convent. So okay. Well, certainly Wizard Shall Not Kill Wizard is certainly that kind of heavy blues stoner kind of sound, which is that kind of, I just said we went a little bit different on This Savage Land, where you get expanded the sound. So it's, I can kind of see what you meant with that. But you've not been like idle yourself during the intervening time. You released a solo album as well, didn't you? Well,
I did, yes.
You work with other people, sorry, but yeah. So
I did that. Basically, I've pretty much been doing music since I left school, and so when Spiders took a rest, it's pretty much what I know. So I mean, and then I was going through some personal traumas throughout that time, and some outpourings came out, and that's what became my solo album, really.
I think one of the kind of pickouts from that was your cover of Criticise, which is quite different from the original Alexander O'Neill song. And it's certainly maybe not the first one I may have kind of thought of you maybe covering either. What was the thought process behind that? Was it that kind of personal feeling, or it just felt right at that moment, or?
Well, originally, originally that album was just going to be like one album with maybe some extra tracks for doing something with that were like maybe broken down tracks, or a bit more sort of like not full band versions of stuff, with maybe one or two covers, and I did that through Pledge, and they kind of encouraged me to expand it a little bit. And so then the idea came that I had like a bunch of sort of acoustic sort of versions of songs that then halfway through the process of writing those, decided to do band versions of songs and then break them down, as opposed to have band versions of like of more like sort of stripped back versions of things. And then the idea came about for doing a triple album, which was quite mental actually thinking about it, but I went ahead with it anyway. And you know, and there was lots of covers that I've always considered that, you know, that I thought might be good to do, and the ones that finally made it were the ones that kind of had some ideas to them, really. And with Criticize, it's such a standard song for what it is, that it really fitted in with the mood of the album. So most of the songs, like the covers that we did for that, kind of fitted in with the mood of the album, really. And you know, it was kind of all pretty much sort of like relationship based kind of things, really. Which, like, a lot of those songs on that album were a bit more direct in their lyrical content, whereas with Black Spiders, it's like there's always been like it's always painted a different picture. Do you know what I mean? It's never been straightforward stuff. It's always been a story hidden behind another story kind of thing.
Well, it's very weird.
And,
You should. Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt. Sorry.
It's okay. Go ahead.
Well, what you just said then was actually something I was going to ask you about right after this. So it's just, I'm sorry for interrupting.
Okay, cool. That leads into it, yeah.
It was the track Rock and Roll, and whether there was a level of introspection in there, maybe, and whether there was, you know, you just said the story behind the story. Obviously, it starts off with I'm sick of this rock and roll, and
right.
it's kind of the feeling behind it.
It's not really in the first person,
Okay.
so it's more kind of. I was kind of thinking about you know, a lot of songs, you know, like Joan Jett, I Love Rock and Roll, and things like that, and just like so many bands are always, you know, have got songs that are about how much they love rock and roll, and so I was just kind of thinking, you know, being in Black Spiders and being in music for so long, and doing lots of touring and playing lots of festivals and meeting other bands and things and going to awards and meeting other bands. And sometimes, you know, you just, like for me, when I hear other bands that are in a position, you know, which a lot of other people might kill for, to be in that position, you know, to be in a band and to have that as, like, you know, you do that as a living kind of thing, to moan about being in a band and all the shit that comes with having to be in a band, and I've got to deal with this, I've got to deal with that. So basically that song is kind of like a little dig in the side of people that are in music that moan about it. And like, there's no reason to moan about it. You know, if you don't want to do it, there's plenty of other people out there that want to do it. You know, go and be a carpenter, go and be a bricklayer. Do you know what I mean? It's like, you know, or shut up. Basically.
Do you think with the way that you change your sound a little bit on This Savage Land, where you said earlier on about kind of expanding what you were doing on the first album, do you think that's made it harder for you with this with the new album, the self-titled one? You said about wanting to have that kind of same impact as Sons of the North.
I think you know, Savage Land's a really good record, and I kind of think there's quite a lot of scope there between what we did with Sons of the North, what we've just done, and what we did on This Savage Land, to encompass everything that Black Spiders is about, really. I think it was just, we thought that it needed to be a bit more immediate. It needed to be a bit more kind of like relentless, and so that's why we chose the songs that we did to go on the album, really. You know, we recorded 18 songs, and then when we realized when we could actually put the album out, due to what's been going on with the pandemic and the manufacturing process and all that. Basically, we chose the album, which was sort of fairly difficult. And then we decided then to put the EP out as well, because those songs, would have made the album. It's just in our minds, there's already a song, like maybe there's already a song like there is on the EP that plays its own part in the album. So, we love those songs as much as we do the album songs, but we just thought, well, because there's a gap between putting out Flying the Soup in November and when the album comes out at the end of March, it seemed quite a long gap, and we didn't want people to kind of be too frustrated about it, because we wanted to get people excited about the album coming out, because obviously we're really excited about it too. Yeah. And so we just thought, well, we've got these extra songs, let's just put them out as an EP, and then once the album's out, basically, if we're going to do anything more, we just got to go and write a new album, which we've got, we're probably already halfway there, because
okay.
Originally, like for this new record, we'd probably written about 40 new songs.
Okay.
Since the beginning of last year, they're all new. So it's just that some of the ideas didn't get finished, so they kind of got put on. Like we kind of pushed them aside and just said, look, okay, we need to focus on what we're going to do and when we're going to record. So let's go with the ones that are more finished. Yeah. Because it's been a completely different way of doing things for us this way, this time around. So
I was going to ask how much it's. You said before about you don't really have a set writing process, but was it a bit more kind of hands-on or together that you were doing things prior to the pandemic?
Well, yeah, prior to the pandemic, we never usually used to demo up songs that much. We'd go into a rehearsal room, someone might have an idea, and then we'd play it to death and record it in the rehearsal room, and then, pick out the best bits of it or whatever. And then sometimes we'd just go in and jam, and then pick out some best bits of the jams that we were doing. Or actually on This Savage Land, myself and Mark Thomas, the other guitarist, did actually spend a lot of time in the rehearsal room, just the two of us kind of working on ideas. And then when the rest of the band came, we kind of tried to go through stuff, and then sort of everyone put their input into stuff and everything. But kind of this time around, because it was so difficult and we couldn't actually get into the rehearsal room to do it, myself and Ozzy were sort of sending ideas between each other on GarageBand, and then between everybody else, and they could put their bits on it. But mainly myself and Ozzy were putting the structure of the song together, a vague structure of the song together, and then sending it out to everybody. And then if everybody, put their own little bits on, or maybe had an idea about something, and then Wyatt could put his drums on as well, because he was able to record his own drum tracks to it and then send that. And then so it was quite a different process, and in some respects, with hindsight, maybe if we would have been doing that since This Savage Land, maybe we wouldn't have taken time out. But that's with hindsight, but maybe not. I don't know. Maybe it was time for a break, and we just needed to kind of figure out how much we missed it, really, I think.
Yeah, that kind of, you don't know what you've got till it's gone situation.
Yeah, kind of. Because we kind of plateaued a little bit. We've been touring and we've been playing like this same level of gigs for ages and ages and ages, and couldn't cut a break. And we'd had a bit of bad luck with a few things, like when we put This Savage Land out, we did it with Pledge, but it kind of went out through a label. But the week before it went out, the A&R guy that signed us to the label lost his job. So basically, there was no one at the label that really wanted to do anything for the band. So we were kind of in a little bit of limbo in a way, and which is why we decided not to bother going back with the label this time around. We thought we'd keep it in house. We know what we're doing. You know, if anyone's to blame for anything, then it's going to come back to ourselves. You know, and so be it. You know, but we kind of know what we're doing. Well, we'll see.
I mean, you mentioned that about your plateaus and stuff. Some of the artists you played with across the years, Ozzy Osbourne, Airborne, Blackstone Cherry, Monster Magnet, to name select few of them. You played Download, Sonosphere. Was it? I can kind of see what you mean with where you thought you got up to. So where do you think your next step maybe should have been, looking at it in hindsight?
It's hard to say. You know, there's such a gap between playing, you know, a venue that does like 500 capacity to the next step up. You know, the next step up's like 1,500, 2,000 capacities, and you know, without the label sort of push behind you and the money to do that and things, it's difficult to try and get your brand out there. You know, I guess we are a bit of a brand, and so we're kind of doing it organically, really. And it's a combination of a few things. I think it's like, you know, I mean, the thing is, we've always had a great agent, which is good for us. You know, we've always had a great press officer, which has been good for us. It's just, you need, on top of that, you need a little bit of luck, and you know, and just maybe getting into the right place at the right time for something, you know, and maybe we just haven't had that little bit of luck yet. But you know, fingers crossed this time round, you know, something will happen, and we'll be able to take that next step up. But even if we don't, you know, I'm sure we'll still be happy about it. So it doesn't really matter, really. I think we're just happy that, you know, we're actually back doing it and we're back together, and you know, and the fact that we've got more song ideas than we've probably ever had at any point in Black Spider's history is, you know, in itself a miracle.
I do have a kind of question I've always wondered about. Where did the "fuck you, Black Spiders" thing come from?
Well, I think it was like when we first maybe started playing that song, and we used to stop and just get the crowd to shout whatever, and I think a lot of people just started shouting "fuck you" before we'd come back in, and so basically, I think the idea was to just, you know, I can't remember exactly when it was, but I just kind of think like maybe it was one gig was stopped and it was just like, okay, you know, thinking about getting the crowd fired up. Let's get them to tell the band to fuck off or fuck you or whatever, you know.
Yeah.
And you know, and it seemed to work, and then it just sort of snowballed from there, really. And we kind of thought, well, it's really good because it gets people into it a bit more, like early on in the show, and they know that we're just kind of out to have fun and we're not taking ourselves seriously and stuff, you know. I mean, like the music might be serious, but like we don't take ourselves seriously that much, and so we kind of, it's always good to have the crowd on your side because it makes it a better gig for you. And you know, I think that's probably one of the reasons why Airborne like forever ask us every time they, you know, have a sniff of a tour, they, you know, they get on the phone and say, you know, do you want to come out and tour with us? Because they know that we get the crowd going, that gets us going, that makes us better. And then when they go on, it gets them all pumped up for when they go on. And, you know, they've actually said to us, you know, that the fact that like on the tour, we kind of get better every night, makes them get better every night. And so, you know, it just makes it all good in the end for value for ticket price, should we say.
Yeah. Where did the artwork concept come from for the new album as well?
Um, well, it was Ozzy that came up with that idea, to be fair. He originally just said he wanted to do something around like magic, and he just said, like what do you think? And we just all kind of like stepped back from it and just said, yeah, just go for it, really. Because like before, the artwork on the first two records and things were like a bit more conceptual, and this time, Ozzy just played a blinder really, and just kind of said, oh, this is what I'm thinking of, and we were like, yeah, that's great, just keep going. And it's fantastic because it's quite different. We had wondered about whether or not we needed to put the whole sort of quest type boys' own adventure story of Overton Palm to bed or not. And it's not that he's been put to bed. It's just that we're just ignoring him for this record, I think. But I mean, like you're saying, like songs like "Wizard Shall Not Kill Wizard" and "Death Comes Creeping," perhaps, and probably "Crooked Black Wings" are all sort of nods towards that whole sort of boys' own conceptual sort of pirate Viking kind of thing, that we're all still young at heart at, really, I think. What did you think to the artwork?
I thought it was not what I expected from your initial artwork for the first couple of albums, shall we say. Right. I really, really enjoy it, but I like that entire kind of different, almost not exactly abstract, but the kind of psychedelic, I guess, way of looking at. I'm probably describing this awfully.
Right.
Yeah, I've really enjoyed it, and that's why I was kind of asking where the concept came from.
Okay. Yeah, I think, I mean, there's been a tradition with our artwork and I guess, merch brand or whatever you want to call it, where we'd done the, 5 heads on a lot of different things. And I guess we kind of thought, maybe it's almost time, maybe it's kind of time for a bit of a new start on some things. And so, maybe our artwork became one of those things. I don't really know. It wasn't. It was a conscious decision to just let Ozzy get on with doing what he was doing, but it wasn't particularly a conscious decision to move on from the artwork that we've done previously.
Okay.
Like the artwork for Death Proof for the EP pretty much came from a bizarre dream that I had after we'd been in the studio, which was our producer's skull, like kind of floating in the air, just screaming at us, saying it's not loud enough or whatever. And so that's where that idea came from. I mean, where is it? I might have it somewhere. I actually drew it up. Hold on a second. Let me see if I can get it.
Yeah, no problem.
Yeah, here we go. Look. So I kind of made this and sent it to Ozzy and said, like, can you make that look better and like more like Black Spiders?
Okay.
And basically he did. So from my GCSE GCSE homework style artwork cover, Ozzy made it into something, something from a PhD version.
It's nice actually seeing where that concept's come from as well, because that was the next thing I was going to ask, was the contrast between the two. So you've kind of answered my question before I've even got to ask that
Oh,
one.
right,
So,
okay. Well, you know, I mean, it was Ozzy had already started working on the album artwork because
okay.
initially we weren't thinking about an EP, but then you know, we were just thinking about putting out another single, but then we just thought, well, let's make it an EP because, you know, that's been one of our traditions that, you know, that maybe we should keep doing, because at this point in time, with there being no gigs, music is currency really for bands.
Yeah.
And you know, and so and it's got people excited about it again, you know, and so, you know, it's really good from our point of view, you know, to have messages and stuff from people, and you know, and all the feedback we've been getting from the EP release, and you know, and from the single release of Flying the Soup, you know, it was fantastic. So you know, we were and we knew that, like, because that was good, that we didn't think that there'd be any particular bad feedback from the album musically, you know.
Like a test the water kind of situation.
Yes, well, sort of, but not really. Just more of like, give people more because they want more, you know. And don't, you know, we kind of thought we didn't need to hold it back for any particular reason, just to sort of say, oh, but we got these songs as well, you know. We kind of just thought, well, you know, give people music, you know, and like, it's something, you know, and it just gives us more scope when it comes to doing shows, really, as well. And yeah.
Are you already looking at live shows after what is hopefully the last lockdown now, and this kind of whole pathway getting back towards, you know, what we all love?
Yes. Well, we were hoping our first show back was booked for the first weekend of May, but that unfortunately has been moved to next year now, because no shows are going to be happening before mid-May anyway. So we'd intentionally booked that gig at the Sheffield Corporation because that's where our last show was, and we kind of thought, what better way to rise back out of the ashes than play the last place we did. But now, at this present moment in time, our first next show is going to be at Steelhouse Festival, which is in July.
Yep.
So fingers crossed that's still going to happen. But you know, we are looking at possibilities of shows. It's just, you know, we kind of feel that if we announce shows just to be cancelled or moved, it's just another disappointment that we'd think that people don't really need.
Yeah.
So we don't really want to do that particularly. You know, so like, we've said yes to Steelhouse, we've said yes to Hard Rock Hell in November. You know, they're all out there, and then the Heretic Festival, which is now moved to May 2022. But you know, if it's allowed that we can go back to gigs and everything's safe, and you know, venues can get insurance for it all, and people feel safe that they can go back to gigs and stuff, you know, we'll be out there as soon as we can, really. You know, it might not be as much as we used to do, but we will definitely be out doing gigs.
Is that something that you've been kind of missing, as well as the guys from the band? I know you did do your kind of solo album, and you did some shows with that as well, obviously. But is it the same kind of comparing the solo stuff to the full band stuff?
Well, I think they're all different, really. You know, like, I did some shows on my own with just an acoustic, which was a first for me, really, because I'm not that great a guitarist. But it went well. And then I did some shows from the solo album with a band, and that went quite well as well. But Spiders shows are a different ball game, really. So yeah, we're really looking forward to it, because obviously when we've been writing these new songs, the intention is that these songs should be played live. I mean, that's when we write songs, that's pretty much what they're for, really, is to play to an audience. Not to just record for people to listen at home. I mean, you want to go out and excite people and get excited and like put it across, and but it's going to be very interesting learning these songs in a rehearsal room together, because we've never been in a rehearsal room together with Wyatt, our new drummer. Well, yeah, at all. So it's going to be strange and exciting and weird and lots of different adjectives that I can't really think of right now. But I'm sure it's going to be a really good, exciting time, and I'm sure we at some point we'll be dying to get out and gig.
How has Wyatt slotted in? Has it been seamless? Has there been any kind of small bumps as you've got used to each other and styles?
Well, obviously when we first decided we were getting back together, Cy was all part of that, but due to his family commitments, he isn't really he wasn't really able to kind of commit to anything else really outside of his new family that he'd just started. So so that was quite a difficult decision probably for him, and and we didn't really know what we were going to do at first. So when it became apparent that Wyatt was interested and free to do it, and capable of doing it, that's when we kind of booked the studio, and we kind of went into the studio with only really hearing what he'd done on the demos that we'd sent him. And so he went into the studio and played the drums along to like a guide track, and just smashed it, and we were just like, this is the guy. So we're really looking forward to it. And obviously he's been doing his Symbols of Appreciation now pretty much every day since the lockdown started last year. So he's been rehearsing quite a lot, and he's probably been learning his chops and getting a lot better, and and he's been doing a wide variety of other people's drum fills and intros and outros and stuff. So having a really solid drummer as a foundation, is going to be great. So I've no doubt that once we start getting back into it, it's all the muscle memory is going to come back to life, and it's gonna it's gonna sound just as good as it always has, I think.
You've mentioned that you've probably got enough material for half a new album again already, and obviously the plans to tour as soon as it's feasible with everything going on. Is there any other things you can kind of see in the band's kind of near to mid-future that you kind of think are maybe a natural progression from where you are now?
I'm not really sure, to be honest, because I think the only thing that we're thinking of is, let's get this record out. If we can do some shows, let's do some shows. If we can get our music out to places that it's not been to before, then that's great. Since we probably last did any proper touring and the last album was out, a lot of the younger kids that came to see us maybe with their parents or whatever are now a little bit older. So so there's probably like a newer classic rock audience out there that maybe haven't seen us and we haven't reached properly yet. So hopefully things can just get bigger and better, and if we're not able to play between now and the end of the year, then we'll probably just do another album.
Okay.
And then when we are allowed to play, it's going to be difficult picking which songs to play. I mean, I don't think we'd ever want to do like a Bruce Springsteen 3-hour, 4-hour set, but who knows?
So I've got one last question for you now.
Okay.
You've played with a number of quite notable artists, and it's not like you guys haven't toured yourselves over the years. What's either the strangest or the kind of most different thing you've heard of on a rider request, either by yourselves or by someone you've toured with?
Well, I mean, I remember like we did a festival once in Belgium called the Roadkill Festival, which is great, a great little festival, and they were dying for us to go and play there, and so we just thought we'd have a little bit of a laugh really with our rider when we sent it through. And it's kind of really the only time, I think it might be the only time I've ever done it. I'm not really sure. I mean, usually we just kind of ask for the basic stuff, or we're arguing about whether we should get corn chips or potato chips.
Okay.
It's usually pretty boring. But we did ask for, I asked them to put I asked for the festival to get a local school, to get their local school children to do drawings of black spiders. And
okay.
And so when we arrived at the festival, in the backstage area, in our marquee backstage like space, like the whole of the inside of the marquee was just covered in all these drawings of children between the age of like 4 and 10 that had done all these pictures of black spiders, which was amazing, really. It was so good. I mean, and the good thing was, I think, the fun thing was as well, it was one of the assistants at the production of the festival was an infant school teacher.
Okay.
And so she'd got her school to do them. And she said, the kids loved doing it as well because they knew it was for a music festival and everything. So, yeah, I mean, it's not too weird, but, it was fun. It was good. Yeah, that was great. I mean, and we did for strange gigs. We did this festival in Switzerland once. That was it wasn't particularly a big festival. It was like a one-day sort of lineup festival where Alice Cooper was headlining.
Okay.
And we like a bit of Alice, and it's probably the only time I've ever played with him, to be honest. And it was strange because it was in Switzerland, but it was an amphitheater in Switzerland where it had been built on top of an old Roman amphitheater that was used for gladiator fighting.
Okay.
So the actual amphitheater had all these completely brand new seats going up all the way around. So it was in a circle with a stage and everything. And then when you got underneath the stage, it had the old ruins that were part of the backstage bit.
Wow.
So that was all quite strange. So if you actually went out through the backstage bit and just went out into where people were stood on the standing area, that's actually where the sand was, where the gladiators used to fight the tigers and things like that. So it was really, really quite bizarre. Even more bizarre was that there was a jacuzzi backstage that we got really leery and drunk in, and were trying to get Alice Cooper to come in and join us, but we're not really taking our trunks with us, so I don't think he was particularly bothered. And we were, we've been getting quite drunk because I think the champagne for that show was free. So instead of drinking beer, we just kept getting our our artist liaison person to go and get us more bottles of champagne, which was truly outrageous but quite funny in the end.
Thank you so much for your time today, Pete. It's been an absolute pleasure getting to chat with you.
No worries, man. It's been good to chat with you as well. I mean, like, you know, Uber Rock has always been great supporters of the Spiders, and myself as a solo artist as well. So, you know, I'm happy to chat about whenever, anytime, man. You know, and if you want to do anything with the rest of the band, just give us a shout, and I'm sure we can sort something out. And it'd be, you know,